Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Edge of Liberty podcast.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here in the SHR Media Network. It is the 11th of March, 2026. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Shout out to our friends over at KLRN Radio for simulcasting this show tonight. Hey, YouTube memberships are open if you're interested. Go to our YouTube page, SHI Media, and you can sign up for the two memberships, two different levels. But at least do me a favor and like and subscribe to the episode. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that has done so far. Shout out to our moderators who are just absolutely doing what needs to be done. And we appreciate you guys being in there so much. We have Buffoon of the Week in the chat room. We have Boyd in the chat room. Reavers in the chat room. O2 in the chat room. I saw Mission Ready Men in the chat room. Good evening to all of you guys. Yeah, super chats are open too, if anyone is so inclined. Got a lot to talk about tonight. What do you guys think of the little bit of the music playing in the background the whole time? You like it? You don't like it? Let me know. Let's try it. I tried it out last week. I figured I'd try it out this week. I apologize for being off Monday night. Had a family emergency, and obviously that takes precedence. Rowdy Rick's in the chat room. Thanks, Rick. I love when I look at the chat room and they're just people guilting each other immediately. We're not even 2 minutes into the show. That's how you know it's going to be a good night in chat. You start off over in Iran. Get everyone caught up on there. Insane footage. I mean, so much insane footage. It's incredible to me that, and still maybe it's because I'm getting old. It's still incredible to me. Oh, Listening Post is in the chat room. Good evening, Listening Post. It still blows my mind that we can watch a war almost real time in this day and age. And it does give some incredible sights. Earlier tonight, and I'm going to get into the breakdown here shortly, Hezbollah, who I mentioned last week, the Lebanese government and military said that they were going to invade southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah has taken over the southern part of the country, for lack of a better term. And that's where they've been spreading their terror from, specifically into Egypt. I'm sorry, Israel, not Egypt. Egypt. The hell was I? Egypt. Hold on. No, just water. I don't know what the hell's going on. Into Israel for an extended period of times. And they've done so, for those who are not aware, because Iran has funded them and given them the weapons to do so for years now, decades. And tonight, and just before we went to air, I saw that there may have been another pager style or subversive attack by the Israeli intelligence. Perhaps motorcycles were targeted. A couple different people were saying that. There's a lot of sirens in southern Lebanon right now that were followed with a bunch of explosions. I can't confirm anything, but it would not shock me. The Israelis and the Lebanese government are trying to smoke Hamas out. And they're getting close, and you know this because Hezbollah threw out this barrage of rockets towards Israel just hours ago. It's an estimated of over 100 rockets that were fired on missiles. They've done stuff like this in the past, but I don't think they fired 100 at once. I know they're trying to overwhelm the Iron Dome. But that's certainly an escalation. And if you need more battle footage, I mean, like I said earlier, just watching this live is absolutely crazy to me. And this was released by CENTCOM. Going after all the missile launchers. Now, the missile launchers, Listen and Post is singing Afternoon Delight. I don't even know what to do with this right now. As far as the missile launches go, according to CENTCOM, 160 active ballistic missile launches is all Iran is expected to have left. Who knows how many are functioning? That is 2/3 of where they were 12 days ago. So they're starting to chip it off one little piece at a time. And as I said before, if you don't know how it works, they go after the ones they know first. And then as Iran uses them, they light up on a radar, and then they go in and target them. Us, Israel, and whoever else, UAE, I think, is helping out now. So every time they fire missiles, which has been less and less the last couple of days, they get their asses lit up for it. There's footage allegedly going around. I can't confirm it, which is why I'm not showing it tonight, of an Israeli drone that was circling a missile launcher, and the soldiers were coming out with white flags. And that could have been true. It could have not been true. I don't know. But it wouldn't shock me. There's been numerous reports that the newest Ayatollah, not going to be around too long, is either dead or in a coma already. And again, I don't know if that's true, but nobody's seen him. He hasn't talked to anybody. They've had other Ayatollahs releasing videos, but not Ayatollah, whatever his last name is. Here it is. And they had grand plans. And now this is going to get into something I talk about here in a little bit. But this is the new Ayatollah, and apparently, according to News Nation, they canceled the California strike because they saw what Newsom already did to it, and they don't want to. There's nothing left for them to attack. Now, that's satire. That's not legitimate. That was put up by the Babylon Bee, but I thought that was absolutely freaking hysterical. And yes, I do have it here somewhere because people are already asking for it. The video they had to use, or the imagery they had to use for the first Ayatollah for his service memorial, whatever you want to call it. I try to find the good and stuff, and this actually made me laugh out loud because, where the hell is it? I know I got it. And I know everyone's already seen it, but I want to put it up to laugh because there's been so much that has been done with it since. Oh, there it is. This planet. And I know that some people have said that it was AI. I don't know. But if I leave this planet and the only imagery that is left of me is cardboard, please don't drag it out in front of the 3 or 4 people that show up to my services. Just pour booze on it and move on. Holy shit. It's amazing. Reports of mines in the Straits of Hormuz. I think 3 ships have been struck so far. 60 Iranian vessels have been struck and sunk, including all of these Soleimani-class warships that are now submarines. which is fitting, seeing how, Soleimani's been dead for a while, so we might as well kill all of his ships too. Secretary of War Hegseth noted Tuesday was the most intense day of kinetic operations yet, Tuesday being yesterday, the 10th. However, the mission is still moving fast. Most of their larger targets have been struck, and they're now starting to get down into the, I don't want to say the nitty gritty, but the nitty gritty, for lack of a better term. There was an explosion today in Quds. Now, from all reporting that I can find and the research that I did, Quds, however you want to pronounce it, which is ironic because Soleimani was in charge of the Quds force before we killed him, but that's neither here nor there. Quds, for those who don't know, the Quds force is the ones who are in charge of all the terrorist organizations and getting them stuff. Baghdad or Tehran
آنها از تنگه هرمز عبور کند و هر شناوری که شناور و یا محموله نفتی آن برای آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی و شرکای متخاصمان.
Probably not their best choice. Quds? Yeah, Ricky Chuds. They could be called Chuds. I just had this video earlier. I'm going to try to scroll down to it because I have so many things saved to show tonight. It's not even funny. Let's see. Somewhere here. There's so much funny things that I kind of want to talk about, but I've just been caught into such a large amount of input from this war and items to share that there's just so much I can't get it all out at once. It was a humongous explosion over Quds. I'm not going to waste time trying to look for it. You can find it. It's on the internet. Reports are that it was the GB something bazillion pound bomb that was used, and if they use that, I'm guessing Quds is where they are. Like I said, that's where the Ayatollahs were allegedly hiding out, the mullahs and all the leadership. And there's a chance that they knew enough that they were meeting, and they want to, what's that? 52 mullahs and one stone type mentality. So, according to Steve Wickoff, there's still 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. You know, that thing that they were trying to say they were trying to create for energy and electricity, which we all know is bullshit because America and other countries had offered to give them enriched uranium for energy in the past, and they refused. And casualties unknown really on the Iranian side, and 140 casualties with 8 people in critical condition, and of course there's the ones I think we're up to 7 that have perished. So the war is still going on. It's moving quick, allegedly. Like I said, we're not on the ground. You're not on the ground. We don't know. 52 mullahs are on the wall. What's amazing is the politics on all of this. I already see today, like I see Democrats coming out today and they're like, oh, all this money we're spending on this war, we could have spent on Obamacare. And it's like, yeah, but that's still ignoring the fact that Obamacare is a gigantic piece of shit. And we all knew this was going to happen. It was going to be unbelievably expensive. That was the plan. I said that years ago on Sackheads. I wasn't the only one. The single payer system was always the goal with Obamacare. It was designed to fail. But they know they can't let it fail because everyone would go crazy, so they want to keep propping it up. But to try to conflate these two things is absolutely ridiculous because it ignores all of the money and investments that this administration has brought in. I'm going to get to Newsom bitching about gas prices when he got, and I know BZ talked about this on the show last night, gas prices have been going up in California because they've been closing refineries here. And I've explained this before, but if you're new here, I'll explain it again. In the state of California, we have what's called a closed-loop fuel system. We have a special blend that can only be made at a handful of refineries. It's unbelievably expensive to make. 2 of those refineries are offline this past year. You now have Marathon Petroleum essentially warning Gavin Newsom that the proposed amendments that CARB is now proposing. Now, last year, just before the election, the California Air Resources Board, from here on, I'll just call it CARB, had a quiet meeting where they passed a whole bunch of rules and bylaws that raised the price or raised the cost of operations for refineries 40%, some say more. That was the ruling, where all estimates at that time is within a year and a half to 2 years, gas in California would be around $7 a gallon on the low end. Despite all of that, and that was the same one too, where one of the CARB board members admitted that they do not they don't take the price of gas into consideration when they're making these rules. It's strictly for the environment. Strictly for the environment. And then you had Marathon, like I said, send this letter to Newsom, essentially saying, if they pass these next set of rules in CARB, if the California Resources Board passes this next set of rules, it's the cap and trade scam. Prices are going to keep going up and up and up. And it was what's called a death knell for the remaining facilities, because they're not going to be able to afford to stay in operation in California. The last one, I forget I forget if it was Chevron or if it was the other company. They said because of that CARB rule that was passed last year just before the election, that's the whole reason they left. They couldn't afford to make this special blend of gas. They have to import everything to begin with because you can't drill here in California. They're importing from overseas. I think it's somewhere around 55% of the oil refined in California is brought in by boat from overseas and places that do it much dirtier. But I digress. And they said the rules that they pass in order to put up, to keep up with all of these new rules, it would cost them a shitload of money. And it was not worth it to them because it would offset any sort of income that they were making, or profit, I should say. And that's why they left. And now you have other companies who are outside of California who are warning them, hey, you're going down this really stupid road and you have to change course. And they refuse to do it. Newsom refused to do it. The environmentalists refused to do it. CARB, I've written about CARB on shrmedia.com and other places so many times. CARB is the biggest bought and paid for bureaucracy in the state of California. And that's saying a lot, considering the state of California is a gigantic bureaucracy. It's absolutely insane. And then, as if that wasn't enough out of Newsom, you said, he's ruining the economy in the state. Unemployment's still really high here. Cost of living still really high here. Cost of gas is still really high here. He's trying to blame it strictly on the war, which, yeah, there was a small bump, but I think oil's back down to under 83% gallon. Dollars a gallon. Pardon me. I wish it was 83 cents a gallon. Dollars a gallon, which was a side effect of this strike that we knew was going to happen. But if California wasn't adding $1.60 per gallon, fuel would be a lot more reasonable. And then the Daily Mail came out with this, and it's tied right to Newsom because, as I've said before, Newsom's making his run at the White House. It's not going great. The rest of the country doesn't like Newsom, but nobody tell Newsom that because he doesn't seem to know. But this report says Gavin Newsom's wife and her firm pocket $3.7 million. Her firm, she's one of the owners, from her gender stereotypes charity, according to IRS filings, days after her sanctimonious rant at the press. Now, I think I played it 2-3 weeks ago, where they were funding in the state Planned Parenthood, the state that's already upside down on its budget. What are we, 20 million the next 5 years underwater because of Newsom and the bureaucracies in the state? And they decided to fund Planned Parenthood because the federal government cut the funding. And at this press conference, somebody asked a question that wasn't Planned Parenthood, and she got all snappy. Jennifer Newsom. I'm sorry. There's 3 names. Jennifer Seibel Newsom. And then it comes out that IRS documents show a recent year Newsom's wife's been paying herself and her company, Girls Club LLC, up to a third of her nonprofit's entire income each year, pocketing over $3.7 million. The problem with that is the organization brings in between $1 and $1.7 million a year in grants and donations, with roughly $300,000 of it going straight to her and her company. The grants is the problem with that. The donations, look, people can donate to stupid things if they want, but grants don't come from nowhere. Do you know where grants come from? Either state or federal funding. So she's got this grift going on, this organization in which she's on the board of, the First Lady of California, and she is, God, what's it called when you launder money? Oh, I mean, when you move money around and try to make it look legal, even though it's a donation directly to yourself. And that goes into Gavin Newsom, because their bank accounts aren't totally separate. They're married, right? They own a house together. They have children together. You know, Gavin hasn't cheated on this one that we know of. So it's going into his pocket as well. And nobody's crying about the ethics in this. And I've shown you 100 times what a piece of shit Gavin Newsom is. There's no doubt Gavin Newsom is the biggest piece of shit. But the grift on this, Buffoon of the Week says, I have to grift harder. Yeah, me too. There's not even a separation like it's going to her sister. It's going back into the house. It's unfreaking believable, and that's straight taxpayer money. Yes, there are donations involved as well. I will acknowledge that. But when you run an organization where you're getting direct grants as a nonprofit, and that's coming from the federal government or from the state government and the federal, and your husband is the governor, and the state's approving grants to your organization in which you're making millions of dollars on. And yeah, you know what? Trump's got the coin and all the other stuff, and he's making money. The family's making money, just like every other president has. Trump came into it with a hell of a lot more money than everybody else did. But Newsom's a filthy grifter, and he's only a state governor. And speaking of filthy grifter in California governorship, because I got 8 minutes. I actually have more time than I thought. And I'll touch back on Newsom, but I saw this today and I thought this was incredible. This is from the California Post. And I'll show it to you just so people say, oh, where is it? No, I'll show it. There it is. It's from the California Post, and it's about Eric Swalwell. Now, a lot of people may not remember that early in the campaign when he announced, there were questions over his residency. And he came out and said, no, everything's fine. Don't you question my residency. How dare you? Of course, I live in California. His opponent, Democratic billionaire Tom Steyer, came out and said that Swalwell appears to only live in California on paper only. He's another one who wants to get out of California, apparently, because he's not buying anything here, making him unlikely to meet basic residency requirements to run for the governor. In a letter from Ryan Hughes, I just want to make sure I got his name right, Steyer's attorney, he called the Secretary of State Shirley Weber to enforce a dormant residency requirement in the governor's race and encourage Weber to allow for robust legal proceedings as to whether Swalwell is eligible to serve as governor. So I was like, oh, okay, so he's like renting a house, or he rented one at the last minute. No. It goes more strange than that. Swalwell's attorney claims that the Livermore address that he rents a one room and a 3-bedroom house, is owned by Nicholas and Christina Mizwaka. Sorry, I'm screwing that name up, I'm sure. Mizwaka, formerly Christina Pinto, is the stepsister of Stephanie Sobrante, formerly Stephanie Pinto, who is married to Tim Sobrante, Swalwell's former deputy chief of staff and director from 2015 to 2018, and a longtime mentor who helped him get into politics. So Swalwell, sorry, I said Swalwell. because my mouth was dry. Swalwell is renting, allegedly, a bedroom. He's married with kids, by the way. Take that for what it is. And he's renting a bedroom down in Livermore to maintain an address. Doesn't this sound like a bunch of other Democrats we found that out about? Wasn't Adam Schiff doing the same sort of thing and got caught in that? And then there's the mortgage fraud and all that went away. It's very strange and also seemingly familiar all at the same time. Speaking of Schiff, now, I've said in this show millions of times, and I'm not the only one, Adam Schiff is the biggest lying piece of shit senator there is. He did win that for the representatives when he was a representative. He's as slimy as Gavin, but he's smarter than Gavin, as stupid as he is. Gavin can't hide how obvious it is. Schiff, well, Schiff can't either, but he tries at least. Newsom does it in your face. And I guess on some level you have to appreciate that if you believe in the Chicago style of politics. He just kind of does it out in the open and just doesn't give a shit about how slimy he is. Schiff still tries to hide it, and he got caught being slimy by Bill Maher.
This statement from the administration: the president had the constitutional authority to direct the use of military force because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest. That's too vague for you?
Totally vague.
Okay, because that's from Obama about
Libya. Well,
that was from Obama when he was bombing Libya. And Libya did not have 60% enriched uranium. Libya was not screaming death to America. Libya, they were funding some terrorism, I'm sure, but later in the years they weren't. They really, I've said this before, Libya, when I had Leah from the Leah Files on, we talked about this. Libya was kind of keeping themselves. Now, that doesn't mean Gaddafi wasn't dirty. That doesn't mean, but the Obama administration, the Hill Dog, Hillary Clinton, who I get a great video of when we get back, needed to run drugs to the guns, maybe drugs too, but definitely guns to the Syrian rebels. And they needed to do it through Libya. So that's why Gaddafi got killed and they allowed the whole country to implode. Then you turn to Iran, as I said, 60% enriched uranium, actively sponsoring terror all over the world, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and more. And now all of a sudden people have a problem with it. By the way, this is the same Iran, which numerous Democrats in the past said that regime change needed to take place and they were a threat to everybody, yada, yada, yada. And I get 3 minutes before the break. Let's see if I can play this video really quick. Speaking of Iran, California, the intelligence community warned law enforcement in California that Iranian nationals who may be hiding in California, probably came here under Biden, but that's neither here nor there, may possess drones, which, by the way, it's not hard to get drones that release stuff, and explosives, and may start actively targeting Californians and Americans, of course. This after there was an alleged warning that a sleeper cell message from the Iranian government came out, potentially instructing the sleeper cells that we know are here to commit atrocities all throughout. Now, I've already seen the liberals say, well, they wouldn't be activating these cells and we wouldn't have these threats if we had just left Iran alone. Fucking mind-blowing mentality. Absolutely fucking mind-blowing to be like, oh yeah, no, we have terrorists here and they have explosives. But if we just listened to what they said, they wouldn't hurt us. That's exactly what this is. The point is, they shouldn't fucking be here, and they shouldn't have the ability to hurt us, and they shouldn't have the be so emboldened to think that they can. But as I've talked about a million times on this show, what a lot on the left don't understand or refuse to understand or are unable to understand is the Islamists, especially Islamist militants, want to kill us for who we are, no matter what you say, and capitulate. And the ones who came here from Iran, the ones who have access to these alleged drones with explosives and are planning on using them, they don't give a fuck how nice you are to them. They don't give a fuck how much you verbally massage them or verbally give them a hand job. They want you dead. End of story. And it would have come either because of an incident with these strikes in Iran or for some other reason, but it would have fucking come eventually. You don't come here, sneak into the country, get your hands on drones and explosives for no fucking reason. You do all that with intent. And the intent was to kill Americans at one time or another. All right, take a break. Thank you to our friends over at KLRN for simulcasting. Please like and subscribe. Memberships are open. You can send super chats if you want. I'm done begging for your approval, if you will. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. 27 minutes left to go. Did I mention we have t-shirts? No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to the Associated Press who put this up. It says, reports claim Iran has stockpiled enough flat pack cardboard Ayatollahs to last for decades. So they may be really digging in. I also want to talk about, and I got to make sure I play the right one first. Because there's two videos. One has been edited hilariously, and another one has is the original. So this is the original video. And I want you to think about what Bill Clinton was really thinking about here when this happened. Yes, we're walking around like we're normal people. Oh, there's too many witnesses. Damn it, that bus was coming too. So I don't know if he was saying that. I'm just guessing. So it was an absolutely awkward walk around for the Clintons. Now, pardon me, if I can find the other video. Oh, where is it? Because then somebody edited it, and oh yes, here we go. Because as I've said before, the internet, as disgusting, vile, and horrid as it can be sometimes, is absolutely fucking hysterical. Oh wait. I want to know. I want to know who said, "Oh well, obviously we gotta make this so it looks like Bill's pushing her over." And somebody said, "Whoa! That's not far enough. We also have to add Joe Biden eating ice cream, falling over on the bike, because that sends it home." If you are getting a rebate in the state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul does have a reminder for the people with a lot of melanin in their skins. Kathy just went and said, Hochul to Black church congregation, don't spend rebate checks at the liquor store. Talking about the rebate checks, and she told that to a predominantly Black congregation in Buffalo about how to spend these inflation rebate checks. Now, this is after, what was it, last year, 2 years ago? She essentially said that Black people were too stupid to use computers, and now she's telling them to go out. Don't go out and go get yourself some liquor. Swear to God, the shit the media allows them to get away with is absolutely incredible. And then the things that they focus on is absolutely incredible. People freaking out because the Department of War spent $22 million on steak and lobsters last month. And, oh no, that was real. Mission Ready Men. That was entirely real. I'll send you the link if you really want to read it. And what they don't realize is that the military has historically, for decades now, when they're about to ask our military members to put their lives on the line, they give them a big expensive meal to say thank you, kind of lift morale, get them going, let them know they're appreciated. And the left is acting like Secretary Warhead said was just running around eating $22 million in steak and video. It was lobster. I read video in the chat, and of course I'm not smart enough to do either one of those. It's incredible to me how much grifting and how much lying goes on the internet. There's so many claims. If you go on TikTok, it's a shit show over there. There are so many claims that the USS Abraham Lincoln has been sunk. So many videos of Arma 3 video games being portrayed as realistic. And the sad part is there are people that actually believe these videos. They're very obvious. They're very, very obvious about how fake that they are. And then you have, and I got a couple of them right here. Let's see if I can pull this one up. Yes. It wasn't that one. Stand by. Sorry. I had it ready. I swear I had it ready. Oh, it keeps kicking me. It keeps kicking me back to what they want me to see. They don't want me to share it, apparently. Oh, here's a good one. There it is. Large number of wounded U.S. soldiers evacuated from the Middle East to Germany. And people are liking this, and it's totally bullshit. There has not been mass evacuations. So there's lies out there that thousands of U.S. soldiers have been caught and killed. There's no boots on the ground in Iran for that to happen. And a lot of the reporting that we have gotten has been consistent with what the independent reporting has been consistent with what the military is giving us for numbers. So it's incredible to me that in this day and age, people turn to anything. And look, we talk about the Edge of Liberty. We talk about my show, SHR Media. I present things. I try to give you evidence of it. But I want you to go out there and verify it yourself. I want you to actually read and find the source on it and see the original source, not what Aunt Momo posted on Facebook and swears to God is true because somebody she heard at the bingo hall told her that. No, actually go out there and do a little research and be informed before you start making your decisions. And the amount of bullshit on X, and look, X, TikTok, Facebook, all of it. I do give X credit because Nikita Baer, the head of X product, dumped a bunch of accounts that were out of Pakistan that were farming accounts. They've demonetized a bunch more. And what you don't realize is the way these algorithms work, some of you older people, be easy. Some of the way these algorithms work is once you see a video, and if you replay it or you stay on it for too long, the algorithm goes, oh, this person likes that. The people creating these videos know that. So they make more and more bullshit videos, thousands of them. They change little things here and there, things you won't even notice. And they just flood TikTok and the other places with them, knowing that that algorithm is going to jam that in front of your face. And then you start looking at Iran's own, and I know they took out their big data hub infrastructure thing, but they still have hackers, probably not in Iran anymore, probably all over the world, who are doing cyber attacks. The Stryker Medical Group, if you don't know who Stryker is, if you've ever seen an ambulance, you've seen Stryker equipment. If you've ever been in a hospital, you've seen Stryker equipment. Stryker makes the stretchers or gurneys, whatever you want to call them, that every ambulance these days have. They make so much of the emergency medical stuff. They hacked their website. So again, going after the people, which is what terrorists do, right? They attack the people any way they can to try to change their politics and their beliefs. We saw that in New York City this past weekend. And speaking of the grift and the lies, this is a good segue into that. I don't know where I want to start first with this because everything is shitty. So there was a protest. It was an anti-Muslim protest. Some guy I legitimately have never heard of. Maybe other people have, whatever. And they were outside the mayoral mansion in New York City. I know it's like Percy Mansion or something like that. Doesn't matter. As they were having this protest, two terrorists of Afghan, their parents were Afghani, showed up. They were both young teenagers with IEDs that they lit on fire and threw at the crowd, hoping to kill people, including law enforcement. So you have a protest, Gracie Mansion. Thank you very much, Buffoon of the Week. Sorry, Gracie Mansion. What did I say, Percy? Yeah, I was close. It's New York. Who gives a shit other than Buffoon of the Week, who's going to now attack me in the chat room. And that was one of the many acts of terrorism that we've seen in this country and overseas, because what was it, Norway, our there was an IED that was thrown at our embassy in Norway. We saw the video out of Afghanistan a couple of weeks ago where the Afghanis were trying to rush it. Unfortunately, the Marines did Marine stuff and ended that. I'm getting I'm getting lit up as I expected to get lit up from Buffoon of the Week in the chat room. So all of that happens, and that's obviously domestic terrorism. The two of them were from Pennsylvania. They targeted specifically this rally, this protest. Again, they weren't holding a protest. The violence wouldn't have shown up. No, that's not how it works. There were other devices that were found later on. I think it was another 3 devices that were found in New York. And then In Pennsylvania, the FBI detonated several other devices. So you have an incident in New York City of domestic terrorism. You would think New York City would be so used to that. And sadly, there are people there that have forgotten it. And I don't mean used to it in a good way, but just like, oh yeah, no, this doesn't shock me that it happens here. Mamdani came out, and this was after he hosted a dinner, and they had pictures from the Hezbollah supporter, Hamas supporter, Mahmoud Khalil, at his house. And he came out with a post essentially turning around and saying, yes, these protesters were horrible, terrible, and awful people. Oh, and by the way, there was this other thing that was really bad too, and it was worse, and it shouldn't happen. But, you know, I want to make sure that up front, the anti-Islam protesters are addressed first, because that's what most people are going to take away from this. So then CNN, carrying the water for the left, doing CNN things, put out an article, and this was just unbelievable to me. They put out this article on X, and this is how they presented it Sunday. There we go. Where is it? There it is. And it reads, 2 Pennsylvania teenagers crossed into New York City Saturday morning for what could have been a normal day, enjoying the city during abnormally warm weather. Now, let me ask you a question. Does that sound like, hey, I'm about to tell you about the terrorist attacks? Or does that sound like these were just 2 normal kids out for a spring drive looking to sow their oats or just be kids, right? They're setting this up so you have sympathy for these Islamic terrorists. Then they went on to say, but less than an hour later, their lives would drastically change. No, their lives drastically changed when they said, hey, we want to murder people. Their lives drastically changed well before they ever got into the fucking car. But I digress. Their lives would drastically change as the pair would be arrested for throwing homemade bombs at anti-Muslim protests. Stop. They weren't. Again, it's all about the fucking wording. How about they threw IEDs at people protesting, which they have the legal right to do? They weren't crossing the lines. They were not ignoring police orders. They were protesting. And these fuckers threw explosives at them. But no. CNN has to sit there and massage it and make it seem much less vicious than it was. There were IEDs. If they went off, you could have been looking at 30, 40, 50 people dead, injured. We saw the kettle bombs that were used in the Marathon bomber were designed differently, but the fragments that they packed them with was the same, ball bearings and all that good stuff. CNN released a statement saying a post regarding the 2 individuals arrested for throwing homemade bombs outside the New York City Mamdani's home failed to reflect the gravity of the incident, thereby breaching the editorial standards we require for all of our reporting. Stop yet again. Because they make that seem like Mamdani was the target. 2 individuals arrested for throwing homemade bombs outside Mamdani's home. That's not what happened. Yes, they were in the proximity of the protest that was in the proximity of Mamdani's home, but the target was the protesters, the innocent people, not the mayor that you're trying to turn into a victim here. That was their apology. That was the walk back. And totally left out that in the original statement, it was an Islamic terrorist attack. So you'd think that would be bad enough. But no. Abby Phillips essentially read the same thing on her show, almost word for word, making it seem like Mamdani was the one being targeted, that he was being the victim. She had to release a statement that said this because CNN is just a walking clusterfuck of a news organization. I want to correct something I said last night. The bombs thrown into New York City over the weekend by ISIS-inspired attackers was thrown into a crowd of anti-Muslim protesters and not specifically targeted at Mayor Mondami. The wording was inaccurate, and I didn't catch it at the time. I apologize for the error. Abby, we know you read that off the fucking teleprompter. So not only did you verbally say it, but somebody wrote it and somebody else approved it, because that's how newsrooms work. Probably 5 people saw it before it went to the teleprompter and said, yeah, they have writers. So then you're like, okay, all right. We have the typical, you're going to read the headline and then we're going to put out the page 8 correction and retraction, or the whatever you want to call it, that nobody's either going to see, because the damage is done. The message has been sent, and this is what media loves to do to people. This is how they manipulate you. They send out the headline. They absolutely make it bigger than what it was, or target the headline towards what they want you to believe happened, even if it's not true. And then they correct it with like a page 8 quiet correction where, blah, 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 blah. We're really sorry. We didn't mean to do it yet again, but we do it all the time. And we're so good at issuing these corrections now that we just, can't stop ourselves. And then not 24 hours after that, 24 hours after Abby Phillips had to retract it, and 48 hours after CNN tried to make it about Mondami, Anna Navarro's on Abby Phillips' show again. Abby's sitting right there. Abby knows the post she had to put out. Navarro says this, Abby says nothing.
Okay, so supposedly some of these comments are as a result of the attempt against Mayor Mondani in New York, who was raised Muslim, was he not?
Now, I'm going to tell you what that was. That was in emails and staff meetings. They said, we need to make this look like Mondami's the victim here. So let's really highlight that. Anna Navarro is a moron, as we all know. She is absolutely just stupid as a pile of shoes. Like, there is nothing intelligent about that woman whatsoever. She is the biggest parrot for Democrat talking points, which says a lot over at CNN. But then she continues, and look who's sitting right there.
Himself. Yeah. So they're being anti-Muslim and they're finally defending Mondani over something.
To be clear, the attack.
They're finally defending Mondami. Now, what that is saying is, it's okay to bomb people if they were really there for the protesters, because it's okay to defend Mondami in this manner if that's what they were doing. So she knows what the truth is, and she tried to say it on both sides of things. On one hand, she said Mondami was the attacker. She wanted to get that fucking sentence out. On the other side, she turned around and then said, oh yeah, well, if Mondami was in fact the victim. And then the argument continued, yada, yada, yada. But this is how the media has operated for years. And the biggest problem is people keep turning this on. And they keep accepting this. And they keep saying this is okay. And they don't hold the media accountable fucking ever. And CNN's still going to there's still going to be people advertising on CNN. There's still going to be people turning on CNN. It's on in all the airports still. It's absolutely incredible to me. And then I spoke earlier about the potential
conflicts abroad, and
I watch for the articles. Whom with the brain watches Tell Your Vision programming? The lunatic, the libertarian, with a very good point. So we're worried here about potential attacks. We're worried here about Islamists upset over Iran attacking. There's the warnings from the government, blah, 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 blah. And then you think, oh, man, things are really rough here. Go up over the border in Canada, where they suspect roughly 700 IRGC members, not just Iranian citizens, not Iranian military, IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran, which is essentially the Ayatollah's own military. It's separate from the Iranian military. That's all of their special forces. That's all of their tactics. That's all of their tacticians. That's the best that Iran has to offer as far as Islamist extremist militants go, are in the IRGC. And there's allegedly 700 that have been allowed to get into Canada, and Canada can't fucking find any of them. This is the Minister of Homeland something or other. It's a Canadian person. And listen to what she says, and you tell me how well this is going in Canada.
There have always been conflicts abroad, and rarely have we seen them spill into our streets the way that we have since this Liberal government has been in power. We now know from the Iranian community right across the country, from many others, that there are hundreds of IRGC agents presently on Canadian soil, using Canada as a safe haven to...
Now, hold on a second. You'll notice that she even said there are Iranians who are reporting this. So Iranian immigrants are calling the federal government and going, hey, there's some real shitbags here that you have to worry about because they could kill us too, and we don't want any part of that.
Organize and to fundraise and to terrorize diaspora communities right here at home. We have seen now critics of the Iranian regime from out west, an investigation now being treated as a homicide, somebody who is critical of that regime. We see
So Canada has had terrorism too, involving this incident, involving the strikes and the war with Iran, whatever you want to call it, in which a murder has taken place in Canada. Now, Canada has a much smaller population than we do. Keep that in mind.
Constantly, and particularly as an MP from a region who represents many in that community, on a weekly basis, those calls coming into our office, informing MPs and at all levels of government, including authorities, that they are terrified of living within their own communities.
So there are so many of them in the western part of Canada and in Canada in general that the Iranians are afraid of them. The Iranian immigrants there are afraid of them. That's how many of them and how vicious they are.
The hundreds of agents that are here today live in Canada with complete impunity, and we have a Liberal government that has done absolutely nothing to stop it.
Now, I want to notate something. She didn't call them refugees. She called them agents for a reason, because they absolutely are there for a reason to enact, when they're told to enact, certain plans to hurt people.
We've seen violence against businesses, gunshots into Iranian activist businesses. We've seen terrorism in the Jewish community. We now are amongst nations that lead the world in attacks against Jewish institutions. Today we are calling on the government to table a plan to get rid of these terrorists that are on Canadian soil.
And that will never happen. They're not going to get rid of them because it's Canada. Canada can't get out of its own way. They should get rid of them, but they won't get rid of them. So yeah, it's not just here. It's in Canada. Like I said, there was the terrorist attack in Norway. We saw what happened in Afghanistan. We saw the warnings with California. I suspect there will be more of it. And I absolutely wish there wasn't, but this is just the world we live in. You know, I brought up earlier how CNN is a fucking joke to begin with. And if you go back a couple years, when John Bolton worked for the Trump administration, and even before that, the mainstream media hated John Bolton. They called him every name in the book. And look, they weren't necessarily wrong. John Bolton is certainly not one of my favorite human beings on the planet. That's for damn sure. But I just think it's funny that now he's a regular guest on CNN, and they treat them with kid gloves. And it's just, it'll show you. I've said before about liberals, and I will say this again about Democrats and liberals. They would absolutely give Hitler a hand job if they thought Hitler would give out a statement that was against Trump. Folks, that's it for me. It is the end of the hour. I appreciate you being here. I'm here every Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on the SHI Media Network, simulcast over on KLRN Radio. It's not just me. Pardon me. Every Monday and Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast, you have my man, Jersey Joe, with Reverb Common Sense. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast, you have Mission Ready Men with my friend Big E. Tuesday and Thursday night, you have the Bulbous One, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on SHR Media at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. And on Friday and Saturdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, you have the FNG, the fucking new guy, Lyle Armstrong with Beer and Bullstein. It's a great show. Like, if you haven't checked that out yet, Lyle was an EOD operator in the military for 20-something years, and he knows his shit. He's pretty dialed, and he's a constitutionalist, so he's a lot of fun to check out. He hosts a really good show. He's definitely getting his feet under him. And if you want to get his shirt, because he's got a really badass logo, and we just released a shirt, you can go to shrmedia.com, click on the 250 Reasons shirt that's over the banner, and that will bring you to the shop, and you can absolutely buy Lyle's shirt there. Thank you so very much for joining me this evening. I'll be back Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. I'll talk to you then. Good night.